The massive warship Crimson Talon moved through the darkness of space like a giant metal beast hunting for prey. Its black hull was covered in sharp spikes and weapon ports that glowed with deadly red light. Inside the ship, everything was dark and cold, just the way the Kethmori liked it. Commander Velthara stood in the center of the bridge, looking out at the stars through the main window. She was 10 feet tall with black skin that looked like armor plating. Her 4 arms ended in claws that could cut through steel, and her yellow eyes glowed in the dim light of the bridge. When she moved, other Kethmori warriors stepped back, even though they were also deadly fighters. Even among her own people, Velthara was known as someone you did not want to anger. The bridge crew worked in silence, afraid to make any noise that might draw her attention. They had heard the stories about what happened to warriors who disappointed her. Some said she had once killed an entire squad for retreating from battle. Others whispered that she could tear apart an enemy ship with her bare claws. All the stories ended the same way, with enemies running away in terror when they heard her name. Sub-Commander Carthex approached her carefully, his own claws clicking nervously on the metal floor. He was 7 feet tall, which made him average size for their species, but next to Velthara, he felt small and weak. "Commander," he said, keeping his voice low, "we are approaching the human system. The target planet is just ahead." Velthara turned to look at him, and he fought the urge to step backward. Her yellow eyes seemed to look right through him, as if she could see all his thoughts and fears. "Tell me about these humans again," she said, her voice like grinding metal. Carthex activated a holographic display that showed a small blue and green planet. The planet is called Kepler 442b by the humans. They call their settlement New Sol. Intelligence reports show approximately 3,000 humans living there. They have been farming and mining for about 10 years. "And they defeated 3 of our invasion fleets," Velthara said. "It was not a question." "Yes, Commander. The first fleet was destroyed completely. The second fleet retreated after losing half their ships. The third fleet never even made it to the planet's surface. High Command believes the humans have some kind of new weapon technology." Velthara studied the planet image. She had crushed 12 different species in her career. She had seen worlds burn and civilizations fall before her weapons. These humans were supposed to be weak, soft creatures who had only recently learned to travel between stars. The idea that they could defeat Kethmori warriors seemed impossible. "What do we know about their leader?" she asked. "His name is Park Jiho. He used to work with machines and computers. When the colony started having problems, the other humans chose him to be their leader. Intelligence says he has no military training and no combat experience." Velthara made a sound that might have been laughter, but it was cold and scary. "An engineer leading warriors against us. These humans must be desperate." She walked to the tactical display where red dots showed the positions of her fleet. 20 warships filled with thousands of Kethmori warriors. Each ship carried enough firepower to level a city. It seemed like too much force to use against a small farming colony, but High Command had been very clear about their orders. "Complete extermination," she said, reading from the mission briefing. "No survivors, no prisoners, no exceptions. High Command wants to send a message to any other species that might think about resisting us." The bridge crew nodded. They had done this many times before. Usually it was quick work. Most species surrendered as soon as they saw Kethmori ships in orbit. Those that tried to fight were crushed within hours. But something felt different about this mission. 3 fleets had failed already. That had never happened before in the entire history of the Kethmori Empire. Either these humans had incredible weapons or something else was happening that nobody understood. "Commander," said the navigation officer, "we are now in weapons range of the planet." Velthara looked out at the small world hanging in space. From here, it looked peaceful and harmless. She could see white clouds swirling over blue oceans and brown continents. It reminded her of worlds she had destroyed before, worlds that had also looked peaceful, right up until the moment her weapons turned them into burning wastelands. "Begin scanning for defensive systems," she ordered. "I want to know about every weapon, every shield, every hiding place they have." The sensor operators worked for several minutes, running deep scans of the planet's surface. Finally, the chief sensor officer looked up with confusion on his face. "Commander, I am not detecting any major defensive systems. No orbital platforms, no energy shields, no underground bunkers. There are some small settlements scattered across the continents, but nothing that looks military." "That cannot be correct," Velthara said. "Scan again." They ran the scans 3 more times, but the results were the same. The planet appeared to be almost completely defenseless. Just farms and small towns and mining sites scattered across the surface. "Where are their weapons?" Carthax asked. "How did they destroy 3 fleets with no defenses?" Velthara studied the scan results. In her experience, when something seemed too easy, it usually meant there was a trap waiting. Maybe the humans had hidden their weapons somehow. Maybe they had allies hiding in the asteroid belt ready to attack. Maybe they had developed some new technology that their scanners could not detect. "We proceed with caution," she decided. "All ships maintain maximum alert status. I will lead the first assault team personally. If these humans think they can hide their weapons from us, they will learn otherwise." She turned to address the entire bridge crew. When she spoke, every warrior stopped what they were doing to listen. "Prepare for planetary assault. Launch all fighters and prepare the dropships. Every warrior checks their weapons twice. I do not know what trick these humans are planning, but we will be ready for it." The bridge came alive with activity as her orders were passed throughout the fleet. Weapon systems powered up with threatening hums. Fighter ships launched from the main hangar bays like angry insects swarming toward the planet. Dropships loaded. With assault troops prepared for immediate deployment, Velthara put on her combat armor, which made her look even more frightening than usual. The black metal plates covered her entire body, and her helmet had glowing red eye slits that made her look like a demon from some ancient nightmare. "Today we show these humans why the galaxy fears the Keth Mori," she announced. "Today we show them that nothing can stand against our power." But even as she spoke the words, something in the back of her mind whispered that this mission would be different from all the others. Something told her that when she met this Park Jiho face to face, her understanding of power and fear might change forever. The Crimson Talon and its fleet moved toward the planet like harbingers of destruction, ready to write another chapter in the long history of Keth Mori conquest. None of them suspected that they were about to encounter something far more dangerous than any weapon, something that could transform even the most feared warrior in the galaxy. They were about to meet human kindness. The dropships descended through the morning sky like falling meteors, trailing fire and smoke behind them. The ground shook as they landed in the open field outside the human settlement called New Sol. Steam hissed from their engines and metal. Landing legs dug deep furrows in the soft earth. Velthara was the first to emerge from the lead ship. Her black armor gleamed in the sunlight, and her 4 arms moved with deadly grace as she stepped onto the alien world. Behind her came 50 of her best warriors, each one armed with plasma rifles and vibro blades that could cut through stone. The human settlement spread out before them, looking nothing like the military fortress they had expected. Small houses with gardens sat along clean streets. Children's toys lay scattered in yards. Clotheslines held drying laundry that fluttered in the gentle breeze. It looked more like a peaceful village than a military base capable of destroying. 3 Keth Mori fleets. "Spread out and search for hidden weapons," Velthara commanded. "These humans are hiding something and we will find it." But as her warriors began to move toward the buildings, something unexpected happened. The humans began to come out of their homes, not running away in terror as every other species had done, not charging forward with weapons raised. They simply walked out calmly, as if meeting alien invaders was something they did every day. At the center of the settlement stood a man waiting for them. He was of average height for a human, which made him tiny compared to Velthara. His black hair was starting to turn gray, and he wore simple work clothes. In his hands he held a steaming cup of some kind of hot drink. "Commander Velthara," the man said, speaking her name correctly, despite never having heard it before. "I am Park Ji-ho. Would you like some tea? You have come a long way." The words hit Velthara like a physical blow. In all her years of conquest, no enemy had ever greeted her with an offer of refreshment. She had prepared for battle cries and desperate attacks and last-minute surrender attempts. She had not prepared for politeness. Her warriors stopped moving, clearly as confused as she was. They kept their weapons ready but did not know what to do when faced with an enemy who seemed to welcome them rather than fear them. "You know who I am?" Velthara said, her voice carrying a threat that had made entire armies retreat. "Yes," Park Ji-ho replied calmly. "We received word that you were coming. We have been preparing to meet you." "Preparing weapons?" she asked. "Preparing." "Food," he answered, "and clean beds for your warriors who must be tired after such a long journey through space." More humans began to emerge from the buildings. An elderly woman approached, carrying a tray of what looked like fresh bread. A young man with a medical bag walked toward some of Velthara's warriors who had minor injuries from the rough landing. A woman with kind eyes knelt down to comfort a small human child who was staring at the aliens with curiosity rather than fear. "My name is Lee Min-ho," said the man with the medical bag as he approached one of the Kethmori warriors. "I am a doctor. I noticed you favoring your left arm. May I take a look at that injury?" The warrior looked to Velthara for orders. She had no idea what orders to give. The entire situation was beyond anything in her military training. Her extensive combat experience had prepared her for every possible battlefield scenario, but no. One had taught her how to conquer people who refused to see her as an enemy. "I do not understand," she said finally. "We are here to destroy your settlement. We are here to kill everyone who lives here. Why are you offering us food and medical care?" Park Ji-ho took a sip of his tea and considered the question as if it were a philosophical puzzle rather than a matter of life and death. "Because you are here," he said simply. "Because you are far from your homes and probably hungry and tired. Because some of your people are hurt and need help. These seem like good reasons to offer hospitality." "We are your enemies," Velthara insisted. "Are you?" Park Ji-ho asked. "You have not hurt anyone yet. Your people seem tired and confused more than dangerous. I do not think it helps anyone to treat tired, confused people as enemies." A woman approached carrying a small child who reached out toward Velthara with chubby human fingers. The child made soft, cooing sounds that seemed to be some form of communication. "This is Kim So-yeon," Park Ji-ho explained. "She teaches our children. The little one is her daughter Mira." Kim So-yeon smiled at Velthara as if meeting a 10-foot-tall alien warrior was the most natural thing in the world. "Mira has never seen anyone from space before. She thinks you look interesting." The child continued to reach toward Velthara, making happy babbling sounds. Without thinking, Velthara found herself leaning down slightly to get a better look at the tiny human. The child had dark eyes full of curiosity and trust. She showed no fear at all. "She is very small," Velthara observed. "All human children start small," Kim So-yeon said. "They grow bigger and stronger with time and care and love." "On my world, the weak are eliminated," Velthara said. "Only the strong survive to adulthood." "That sounds lonely," Kim So-yeon replied. "Here we believe that taking care of the small and weak makes us all stronger." More of Velthara's warriors were now receiving medical attention from the human doctor. Others were being offered food and water by various colonists. Some were even being shown around the settlement as if they were tourists rather than invaders. Sub-Commander Karthex approached, looking more confused than Velthara had ever seen him. "Commander, he said quietly. The humans have no hidden weapons, no secret bunkers, no defensive systems of any kind. Their only technology appears to be farming equipment and basic manufacturing tools. That cannot be correct, Velthara said. 3 fleets were defeated here. I know, Commander, but I have searched everywhere. There are no weapons capable of destroying even one of our ships, much less entire fleets. Park Jiho overheard their conversation and stepped closer. May I ask what happened to the other ships that came here? They were destroyed, Velthara said. Your people killed thousands of Kethmori warriors. Park Jiho looked genuinely surprised and saddened by this news. I am sorry to hear that. We never want anyone to be hurt. The other ships that came here were not destroyed by weapons. Then how? Velthara demanded. They left, Park Jiho said simply. After spending time with us, they decided they did not want to fight anymore. Some of the warriors chose to stay and help us with our farming and building. Others returned to space to find a different path. The truth hit Velthara like a weapon blast to the chest. The 3 fleets had not been destroyed by human technology. They had been defeated by something far more dangerous than any weapon. They had been defeated by human kindness. As the sun climbed higher in the sky and her warriors continued to receive care and hospitality from the humans, Velthara began to understand that she faced an enemy unlike any she had encountered before. An enemy that fought not with weapons, but with compassion. An enemy that conquered not through fear, but through the simple act of treating strangers as friends. For the first time in her long career as a warrior, Velthara did not know how to win. 3 days had passed since the invasion began, and Velthara found herself in the strangest situation of her military career. Instead of leading a quick extermination mission, she was sitting in a human kitchen watching Park Jiho prepare something called breakfast. The eggs come from our chickens, Jiho explained as he cracked shells into a heated pan. The vegetables are from our gardens. Everything is grown here on the colony. Velthara studied the small room with its simple furniture and warm colors. Sunlight streamed through windows decorated with colorful curtains. Pictures of human families hung on the walls, showing people smiling and embracing each other. It was completely different from the cold metal rooms on her warship. Why do you show me these things? She asked. I am here to destroy your settlement. I know, Jiho replied calmly as he stirred the cooking food. But you have been here 3 days and have not destroyed anything yet. So I thought you might be interested in learning about how we live. Outside the window, Velthara could see her warriors scattered throughout the settlement. Some were helping a human named Choi Dae-hyun repair farming equipment. Others were working with Yoon Ha-yoon to fix a broken water pump. A few were even playing with human children who seemed to find the alien soldiers endlessly fascinating. My warriors are forgetting their duty, Velthara said. Are they? Jiho asked. Or are they discovering that there are different kinds of duty? Duty to destroy or duty to protect? Duty to conquer or duty to help? He placed a plate of food in front of her. The eggs were bright yellow and steaming. The vegetables were green and red and orange. It smelled better than any military rations she had ever eaten. On my world, we take what we need from other species, she said. It is the way of the strong. Here we grow what we need ourselves, Jiho replied, and we share it with others who need help. It is the way of the wise. Velthara tasted the food carefully. It was warm and flavorful, and unlike anything she had experienced before. On Kethmori ships, warriors ate processed nutrition blocks that provided energy but no pleasure. This human food seemed designed to bring joy as well as sustenance. The High Command will not understand this delay, she said. They expect me to complete the mission quickly. What will happen if you do not? Jiho asked. Court-martial, execution, disgrace for my family name. And what will happen if you do complete the mission? Velthara considered this. The settlement will be destroyed. All humans here will be dead. My people will claim this world for mining and military bases. Is that what you want? The question hung in the air like a weapon waiting to strike. Velthara had never asked herself what she wanted. Kethmori warriors were taught to want only victory and the glory of their empire. Personal desires were considered weakness. But as she looked around the small kitchen with its warmth and life and evidence of human creativity, she found herself thinking about things she had never considered before. What would it be like to wake up in a place filled with light instead of darkness? What would it be like to create something instead of destroying it? What would it be like to be welcomed somewhere instead of feared? I do not know, she admitted quietly. A communication device on her belt began to beep with an incoming message from her ship. Velthara activated it, and the holographic image of her communications officer appeared. "Commander," the officer said, "High Command is requesting a status report. They want to know why the mission is taking so long." "Tell them we are conducting thorough reconnaissance," Velthara replied. "Complete extermination requires careful planning." The officer looked uncertain, but nodded. "Yes, Commander. They also wanted me to inform you that War Marshal Drakmor will be arriving in the system tomorrow to inspect our progress." The hologram flickered off, leaving Velthara staring at empty air. Drakmor was her former mentor and the most feared commander in the Kethmori fleet. He had personally overseen the destruction of 17 different civilizations. If he arrived and found the human settlement still intact, he would not hesitate to destroy it himself and execute Velthara for failure. "Bad news?" Jiho asked. "My superior is coming," Velthara said. "He will not show your people the same patience I have shown. Will you warn us when he arrives so we can hide the children?" The simple question revealed so much about human nature. Even facing annihilation, Jiho's first thought was protecting the most vulnerable members of his community. On Velthara's world, the weak would be abandoned to save the strong. Here, the strong seemed willing to sacrifice themselves to save the weak. "Hiding will not help," she said. "Drakmor has sensors that can detect life signs anywhere on the planet. There is nowhere you can go that he will not find you." "Then we will face him the same way we faced you," Jiho said simply. "With tea and kindness and the hope that even the hardest heart can be softened." "You do not understand," Velthara said, standing up abruptly. "Drakmor is not like me. He has destroyed worlds without a second thought. He considers mercy to be the greatest weakness a warrior can show. Then perhaps it is time he learned that mercy is actually the greatest strength." That afternoon, Velthara walked through the settlement trying to understand what had happened to her carefully ordered world. Everywhere she looked, she saw her warriors engaged in activities that would have been unthinkable just days before. She found Sub-Commander Karthex helping a human woman named Young Yeji harvest vegetables from her garden. His powerful claws that were designed for combat were being used to carefully dig delicate plants from the soil. "Commander," he said, looking up from his work, "these humans have developed fascinating agricultural techniques. This woman has increased crop yield by 40% using natural fertilizers and companion planting." "You are a warrior, not a farmer," Velthara reminded him. "I am both," he replied. "I can fight when fighting is needed, and I can grow food when growing food is needed. The humans have taught me that strength comes in many forms." She found other warriors helping to build new houses under the guidance of Nam Woojin, the settlement's carpenter. They were using their enhanced strength to lift heavy beams and their precision claws to make delicate joints in the wood. "We could build an entire city in a few days with your help," Nam Woojin told them. "Your people are incredibly skilled workers." Velthara watched her fierce warriors smile with pride at the compliment. When had any conquered species ever praised Kethmori abilities? Usually they only saw the Kethmori as destroyers and monsters. In the settlement's small school, she found teacher Kim Soyeon showing a group of warrior how human children learned about the world. The aliens sat in chairs that were far too small for them, listening intently as human children explained their drawings and stories. "Your warriors are very good with children," Kim Soyeon told Velthara. "They are patient and gentle and ask wonderful questions. The children love having them here." That evening, Velthara stood alone outside the settlement, looking up at the stars where tomorrow War Marshal Drakmor would arrive with enough firepower to turn this peaceful world into burning ash. In less than 24 hours, she would have to choose between her loyalty to the Kethmori Empire and her growing attachment to these strange humans who had shown her a different way to live. For the first time in her life, Commander Velthara, the terror of a dozen worlds, was afraid. Not afraid of dying in battle, but afraid of having to destroy something beautiful. Afraid of returning to a life where strength only meant the ability to cause pain. Afraid of losing the warmth and acceptance she had found in this small human settlement. Tomorrow would bring the ultimate test of everything she had learned about power and duty and the true meaning of strength. The morning brought dark clouds and the threat of a severe storm. Velthara stood at the window of the settlement's community center, watching the sky grow black while Park Jiho checked emergency supplies. "We get storms like this every few months," he explained as he counted flashlights and medical kits. "The wind can reach dangerous speeds and the lightning can knock out our power systems. Your people should take shelter," Velthara said. "My warriors and I can weather any storm." "We all take shelter together," Jiho replied. "Your people are part of our community now, whether they plan to be or not." The word community struck Velthara as strange. On Kethmori ships, there was only hierarchy. Commanders gave orders and subordinates obeyed. There was no sense of shared responsibility or mutual care. Everyone looked out for themselves, and the strongest survived. But here she had watched humans share food with warriors who had come to destroy them. She had seen them offer medical care to soldiers who carried weapons designed to kill them. She had witnessed acts of kindness that made no logical sense from a survival perspective. The storm hit with incredible force. Wind howled around the buildings and rain pounded against the windows. Lightning lit up the sky in brilliant flashes, followed by crashes of thunder that shook the ground. Then the power went out. Emergency lighting flickered on, but it was dim and would not last long. In the settlement's medical center, several patients depended on electric machines to keep them alive. Without power, they would die within hours. "The main generator must have been struck by lightning," said Yoon Hyun, the settlement's chief engineer. "The backup systems are not powerful enough to run all the essential equipment." "Can the main generator be repaired?" asked Dr. Lee Minho. "Maybe," Yoon Hyun replied, "but it is outside in the storm. The wind speeds are deadly and the lightning strikes are constant. No one could survive out there long enough to fix it." Velthara studied the technical readouts on Yoon Hyun's tablet. The generator building was 200 meters away across open ground with no shelter. Even with her enhanced strength and armored skin, she would find it challenging to reach the building safely. "I will go," she announced. "My armor can protect me from the lightning and my strength can handle the wind." "No," Park Jiho said firmly. "It is too dangerous. We will find another way." "There is no other way," Velthara replied. "Your people will die without power." "You are not responsible for saving us," Jiho said. "You came here to destroy us, remember?" Velthara looked around the room at the faces of humans and Kethmori warriors who had somehow become friends over the past few days. In the medical center, she knew there were sick children who needed machines to help them breathe. There were elderly humans whose hearts depended on electronic devices to keep beating. "Maybe I came here to destroy you," she said quietly. "But that is not what I choose to do now." Before anyone could stop her, Velthara activated her armor's full protection systems and stepped out into the storm. The wind hit her like a physical blow, trying to knock her off her feet. Rain struck her helmet with the force of bullets. Lightning turned the world into a chaos of light and shadow. Step by step, she fought her way across the open ground. Twice, she was knocked down by powerful wind gusts. Once a lightning bolt struck so close that her armor's systems overloaded temporarily, leaving her blind and deaf for several seconds. But she kept moving forward, driven by something she had never felt before. Not the desire for victory or glory or conquest. Something simpler and more powerful. The desire to protect people who had shown her kindness. The generator building was a mess of twisted metal and sparking wires. The main power unit had been struck directly by lightning and several critical components were destroyed. But Yoon Haeun had been right about one thing. It could be repaired if someone had the strength and skill to replace the damaged parts. Velthara worked by the light of continuous lightning strikes. Her forearms allowed her to hold tools and spare parts while manipulating delicate wiring. Her enhanced vision let her see damage that human eyes might miss. Her warrior training gave her the focus to work steadily despite the chaos around her. It took 2 hours of dangerous work in the howling storm. By the time she finished, her armor was cracked in several places, and her hands were burned from electrical shocks. But the generator hummed back to life, sending power flowing to the settlement's essential systems. When she stumbled back into the community center, soaked and exhausted, she found the humans and her own warriors working together to care for storm victims. Dr. Lee Min-ho was treating injuries with the help of Keth Mori warriors who used their precise claws to assist with delicate medical procedures. "You did it," Park Ji-ho said as he helped her remove her damaged armor. "The medical equipment is working again. You saved lives today." "I do not understand why I did it," Velthara admitted. "It was not logical. It served no military purpose." "You did it because you care about people," said Kim Soyeon, who was bandaging cuts on Velthara's arms. "You did it because you have learned what real strength looks like." "Real strength is the ability to destroy enemies," Velthara said, repeating. "What she had been taught since childhood." "No!" said Dr. Lee Min-ho as he checked her injuries. "Real strength is the ability to save friends. Real strength is choosing to help even when it costs you something. Real strength is being willing to risk yourself for others." As the storm gradually passed and normal power was restored throughout the settlement, Velthara found herself thinking about the doctor's words. She had always believed that strength meant being feared. But these humans were not afraid of her, and yet they treated her with respect and gratitude. She had always believed that power meant the ability to force others to obey. But the humans had not been forced to care for her warriors. They had chosen to do it freely. She had always believed that victory meant defeating enemies. But what she had experienced here felt more like victory than any battle she had ever won. And she had achieved it, not by destroying enemies, but by saving friends. Sub-Commander Karthex approached her as she sat by the window, watching the last of the storm clouds drift away. "Commander," he said quietly, "I have been monitoring communications from the fleet. War Marshal Drakmore will arrive in 6 hours. He is bringing 3 full battle groups, enough ships to sterilize this entire planet." Velthara nodded. She had known this moment would come. Soon, she would have to choose between the world she had always known and the world she had discovered here among the humans. "What are your orders, Commander?" Karthex asked. Velthara looked around the room where humans and Keth Mori were sharing food and stories and laughter. She thought about the children in the medical center who were breathing easily because she had risked her life to restore power. She thought about the kindness that had been shown to warriors who had come as conquerors. "I do not know," she said honestly. "For the first time in my life, I do not know what orders to give." But even as she spoke, the words Velthara was beginning to understand that some choices could not be made by following orders. Some choices had to come from the heart, and her heart had been changed by everything she had learned about human strength. Tomorrow, she would face War Marshal Drakmore. Tomorrow she would discover whether the lessons she had learned here were strong enough to stand against the full might of the Kethmori Empire. Tomorrow she would find out what kind of warrior she had truly become. The morning sky filled with dark shapes as War Marshal Drakmore's fleet descended from orbit. 60 massive warships blotted out the sun, casting shadows across the peaceful human settlement. Each ship bristled with weapons capable of turning the entire planet into a lifeless wasteland. Velthara stood in the settlement's central square, watching the ships take position in the sky above. Her own warriors gathered around her, looking uncertain. They had spent days living and working alongside the humans. The idea of watching them be destroyed no longer seemed like victory. He brought the entire 4th Battle Fleet, Sub-Commander Karthex observed. Enough firepower to crack this planet in half. Park Jiho approached carrying his usual cup of tea. His face was calm, but Velthara could see the worry in his eyes. He knew what was coming, and yet he showed no anger toward her or her people. "I suppose this is goodbye," he said simply. "You could still run," Velthara told him. "Take your people and hide in the mountains. It might buy you time." "Time for what?" Jiho asked. "Your war marshal will find us eventually. And besides, running away is not who we are. We face our problems together." More humans began to gather in the square, not to flee or fight, but simply to stand together as a community. Children held their parents' hands while adults comforted elderly neighbors. Dr. Lee Min-ho made sure his medical supplies were ready in case anyone was injured. Teacher Kim Soyeon organized the children into calm groups away from the potential danger. "You are all going to die," Velthara said, "and there is nothing I can do to stop it." "You could fight with us," suggested Yoon Haeun. 20 ships against 60, Velthara replied. "The odds are impossible." "We never expected the odds to be fair," Park Jiho said with a slight smile. "We expected them to be impossible. That is when humans do their best work." A communication beacon activated in the center of the square, and the holographic image of War Marshal Drakmore appeared. He was even larger than Velthara, with armor covered in the battle honors of 17 conquered worlds. His voice was like grinding stone when he spoke. "Commander Velthara, you will report to my flagship immediately to explain your failure to complete this mission." "Yes, War Marshal," Velthara replied. And Commander Drakmore continued, "Prepare your warriors for immediate withdrawal. I will personally oversee the extermination of this human infestation." The hologram disappeared, leaving the square in tense silence. Everyone understood what was about to happen. The humans would be killed, and the Kethmori warriors who had found friendship and purpose here would be forced to return to their old lives of conquest and destruction. "I have to go," Velthara told the assembled humans. "If I refuse his summons, he will simply begin the bombardment immediately." "We understand," Park Jiho said. "Thank you for the time you gave us. Thank you for showing us that even warriors can choose kindness." As Velthara prepared to leave for Drakmore's flagship, she found herself surrounded by humans wanting to say goodbye. "Nam Woojin." The carpenter pressed a small wooden carving into her hands. It was a figure of a Kethmori warrior, but instead of weapons, the figure was holding tools for building. "So, you remember us," he said simply. Dr. Lee Min-ho gave her a medical kit. "In case you are injured," he explained. "Someone should take care of you the way you took care of us." Even little Mira, the child who had shown no fear of the alien warriors, toddled over to hug Velthara's leg. Her tiny human arms could barely reach around the massive alien limb, but her gesture of affection was unmistakable. "Do not forget us," Kim Soyeon said, as she lifted her daughter. "Do not forget that there is another way to be strong." The flight to Drakmore's flagship gave Velthara time to think about everything that had changed in her life over the past few days. She looked down at the human settlement where her warriors were still working alongside the colonists, preparing for the end that they all knew was coming. War Marshal Drakmor was waiting for her in his command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the firepower at his disposal. He studied her with eyes that had watched civilizations burn without feeling any emotion. "Explain your failure," he commanded. "The humans have no weapons," Velthara reported. "No defenses, no military capabilities of any kind." "Then why are they still alive?" Velthara hesitated. How could she explain what she had experienced to someone who saw only enemies and targets? How could she describe the power of kindness to someone who understood only the power of destruction? "They are not what we expected," she said finally. "They are a pest species that has embarrassed the Kethmori Empire by defeating 3 of our fleets." Drakmor replied. "Today that embarrassment ends." He activated the fleet communication system, addressing all ships simultaneously. "All vessels prepare for planetary bombardment. Target every population center. Leave nothing alive." "War Marshal," Velthara said. "Request permission to evacuate my warriors first." "Denied. Your warriors will observe the bombardment as a lesson in the price of failure. Perhaps watching these humans die will remind them of their duty." Velthara felt something cold settle in her chest. Her own mentor was planning to force her people to watch the destruction of beings who had shown them nothing but kindness. Warriors who had learned to build instead of destroy would be forced to witness the burning of friends who had taught them new ways to be strong. "The bombardment begins in 1 hour," Drakmor announced. "Use that time to consider how you will explain this failure to High Command." As Velthara returned to the planet's surface, she knew that she faced an impossible choice. She could obey orders and watch the humans die, knowing that part of herself would die with them. Or she could rebel against everything she had been taught and fight for something she was only beginning to understand. When she landed in the settlement square, she found Park Jiho waiting for her with his tea and his calm acceptance of whatever was about to happen. "1 hour," she told him. "Then we have time for one last cup of tea together," he replied. As they sat in the peaceful garden that botanist Bei Sujin had created, Velthara made her decision. She could not save the humans. Her 20 ships could not defeat Drakmor's 60. But she could choose to stand with them when the end came. She could choose to die as someone who protected friends rather than someone who destroyed enemies. For the first time in her life, Commander Velthara was going to disobey a direct order from a superior officer, and strange as it seemed, she had never felt stronger. The countdown reached 0, and nothing happened. War Marshal Drakmor's voice crackled through the communication system with rage and confusion. "All ships report status. Why has the bombardment not begun?" From across the fleet came reports that made no sense. Weapon systems were powering down instead of firing. Targeting computers were refusing to lock onto the human settlement. Some ships were actually moving out of attack formation. "What is happening?" Drakmor demanded. The answer came not from his own officers, but from Velthara standing in the human settlement with Park Jiho beside her. She had activated an open communication channel so that every ship in both fleets could hear her words. "Warriors of the Kethmori Empire," she said, her voice carrying across space to reach thousands of soldiers. "I stand here among people who welcomed us as friends when we came as enemies. I have seen what happens when strength is used to protect instead of destroy. I have learned that true victory comes not from conquering others, but from conquering our own hatred and fear." "Commander Velthara, you are relieved of duty," Drakmor snarled. "All ships will fire immediately or face court-martial." But something unprecedented was happening across the battle fleet. Kethmori warriors who had spent years following orders without question were making choices for themselves. Ships that had been ready to rain destruction on the planet were powering down their weapons. Soldiers who had come to destroy were refusing to kill. Captain Zarved of the Destroyer. Bloodfang was the first to speak. "War Marshal, with respect, these humans have done nothing to threaten the Empire. They have no weapons, no military installations, no strategic value. This is not a battle. It is an execution. You will follow orders, Drakmor commanded. I have followed orders my entire career, Captain Zarved replied. I have watched worlds burn and civilizations fall, but I have never been ordered to kill people who offered me kindness. I cannot do this. More ship commanders began.